Oh, God. Right, let's get straight into it. This beef, probably one of the greatest beefs of all time. Not as good as Pac versus Biggie. Obviously, people died. But when it comes to delivery, I think both sides delivered. Now, for those of you who don't know the beef that I'm talking about, it's simply the beef that's been going on between Drake and Kendrick. And I know there are probably people out there who are going to be like, oh, what started this off? Truly, I honestly think that Drake has always liked Kendrick and Kendrick has hated Drake. There's evidence of Kendrick hating Drake and evidence of Drake always liking Kendrick. So for example, as Drake rightfully said, the first #1 I had to hand it to you. It was featured on Swimming Pool. They did that song together with I like bad bitches, that's my fucking problem. And I started fucking like a fucking problem. A$AP Rocky and everybody else that was involved with it. Really good track, probably still one of the best club bangers in the world, right? And Kendrick stole the show with that. And then Kendrick was featured on Big Sean's song, Control. It's so funny that Big Sean was actually the creator of that song. Now, this beef is something that I personally don't want to see happen. Only because I believe that most of the best works that's happened recently when it comes to music is when the quote-unquote big three are collaborating together. And Kendrick and Cole collab, when Drake and Cole collab, just look at first person shooter, when Kendrick and Drake collab, and when Drake and Kendrick collab, even though it's probably been like a decade or more since that's happened. Ever since the Control verse, Drake was always upset that everybody was praising Kendrick despite everything that Drake had done. Drake always seems to show us being versatile, and yeah, trying to sound like academics. I mean, Drake dick rider. But he's shown the ability to go to different countries, adopt their styles, colonizer, and then pretty much reinvent himself to pretty much reinvent himself to a better version of himself, which now we can see a more evolved Drake. I don't think that back-to-back Drake would have been able to go toe-to-toe with someone like Kendrick, but he's learned from his mistakes with his last beefs, especially with the one with Pusha T. I think Drake completely got humiliated and destroyed in the Pusha T beef, and he had no way of coming back. Especially learning from that, I think he was very prepared with the Kendrick situation, which is why I'm going to be going through the best parts of the beef. Now, not to try and sound like an academic, I mean a Drake dick rider, but Kendrick dropped. We were just listening to Drake's response, right? So I'm going to talking about how Drake beats Kendrick in his head, but how Kendrick won the entire battle. So Drake pretty much had really good disses where he was talking about why is Kendrick so mad, like what's going on, we wanted to make a song together, which is true because First Person Shooter was meant to star all three of them, and Kendrick was like, fuck the big three, it's just big me. That's a smash. And the best thing about this entire beef, which is why Kendrick won, is I don't think Drake has any quotables. And he's always been the guy with the pop songs, with the quotables, is like, you know, from God's Plan to Nice for What, to all these recent songs that he's dropped that have really good quotables. And none of his diss tracks has anything. Like, I can even remember the back-to-back. We waited 4 days, what, nigga, where you're at? It's like, is that your girl? Is that your world tour or your girls tour? Yeah, this is straight off the dome, and I'm not even looking at the lyrics. Right. And yeah, and this is where Drake pretty much misses out on the situation that he should have had in the bag. No pun intended. There's a pun there anyway. Yep. But Drake's disses were actually really good, solid ones, where Drake starts talking about Kendrick's mandems, one of his cameraman and people in his crew, and part of his art. Was it PG something? God knows what that thing means. Kendrick is always so cryptic with things, which he almost went too cryptic and could have ended up shooting himself in the foot. and suffered from what I call the Eminem syndrome, where you're so good and so lyrically gifted and so talented and so genius that you just lose the normal people and it gets boring and people just start falling asleep as you talk and you rap, right? Now, him talking about that was a good hit because, Kendrick allegedly having his wife cheat on him, which leads to Kendrick hitting her, and then Kendrick hooking up with a snow bunny, reverse racism. Yes, we love it. And Drake setting up for a fake child. That was a joke, by the way, not the fake child part. The reverse racism. No, cancel me. Um, and that's a very, 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 very mastermind level of thinking. Because Drake had already learned from his mistakes with Pusha T. He knew how to approach the beef because he had already been in a very public one with gosh, I completely always forget this guy. Did he lose so bad that I forgot Mick Mill? Jesus Christ, how did I forget his name? And winning that in such a way where he understood that being consistent and being up to date with your pen is what was necessarily to win. So Drake dropped 2 songs, and that's the problem about being consistent, because you can be consistent, but you can always commit self seppuku or shoot yourself in the foot. So Drake drops his first song, which obviously was really good in the response, which was Push Ups. And I think Push Ups was a really good, funny song where he's not getting too personal. He's taking digs at people coming at him. It's like, oh, I'm number one. That's why it's 20v1. All of that makes sense. Joking about Kendrick doing push ups, joking about Rick Ross, joking about people from The Weeknd, to everyone who Metro Boomin. Metro, shut your ass and make some drums, nigga. Everybody knows some quotable. Actually, I take that back. Drake does have quotables in this beef. But it's funny because the quotables are nothing to do with Kendrick, but to do with everyone else. Right. Now, which goes back to my point where I think Drake genuinely really, really likes Kendrick, which I feel sorry for him at this point. And yeah, and from that he did the tailor-made freestyle, which would have been a good diss if he didn't start using the AI stuff, which then makes people start speculating, is Drake using AI to write his lyrics? Because you can use AI to write your rap lyrics. As a bunch of, fake Kendrick responses showed that they did on TikTok. So if he's using it for the vocals and the voices, it's much, much easier and much, much faster to use it for the actual lyrics. And if you also have ghostwriters and, credited writers and all these other people in your studio who can review it, it's not a far reach. But yeah, that shot Drake drastically in the foot, and nobody's considering tailor-made freestyle or whatever that nonsense is called, which has also left the Tupac estates to take it completely down because it's not something that you want the great Tupac's legacy to be associated with, especially knowing how or what led to Tupac's demise was probably one of the biggest beefs of all time, which made us lose probably 2 of the greatest rappers ever. Now, after pretty much academicing Drake, sucking off Drake, giving Drake his flowers, sucking off, nah, just kidding. We can start going into Kendrick steps, which would also go into how I think Kendrick almost threw this, but it came back with a 3-pointer and took it in the last minute. Right. Kendrick's this were really deep and personal, going directly at his son, and then also going directly as his entire family, from his mom to his dad. And I love the approach where he's talking about his mom, raising Drake as a single mother, and then having to witness Drake be a worse version of his dad, and then just pretty much call his dad a money-hungry piece of shit, which technically his dad is because he was completely out of Drake's life, up until Drake was successful and an actor / musician, whatever. Drake has talked about it multiple times. Check out a lot of Drake's songs or whatever, right? Then, rather than going from ghostwriting to breaking down Drake's catalog, Kendrick was like, I'm a hater. I hate you. You should just die. And then everyone is like, what? This isn't even a beef. This is like a execution attempt, an assassination attempt. But if you aim for the hand of the king, not that I'm saying that Drake isn't a king, they're both kings of two different kingdoms. You should not miss. Now, Kendrick being so vocal about that, I think it's his first misstep, but also one of the biggest things that makes it more direct and makes it more personal, which then leads to Drake dropping, family ties. And basically, which then leads to Drake then dropping family ties. I personally think Euphoria, what did I just say? Euphoria. I personally think Euphoria and 616 in LA were masterclasses and would have been a headshot if Drake didn't fill Kendrick's head with lies. And then Family Matters. Yeah, Family Matters was pretty much one of the best responses that I think Drake has had. And from that, Kendrick was like, okay, we're going to drop Meet the Grahams. Yeah. And because there was lies in that, it caused Kendrick to realize last minute, oh, wow, this is not enough because we might have made a misstep without information. And he dropped Not Like Us. Now, where Drake slipped is that after Kendrick dropped Meet the Grahams, Drake should have responded with a Back to That, which would have been upon on Back to Back and also Like That, and which is also a reference to Not Like Us as well. So he would have had a really good rebuttal and he should have made it a pop song and be like, oh, well, oh my gosh. In the same way he started off with Back to Back, he should have used that same bop and he should have made a remix version of the beat with his producer because that's how Drake could have checkmate Kendrick. But Drake took too long to respond, which is so weird because he understood that that's the reason why he beat Meek Mill with his consistency, and Kendrick responded back to kill the back-to-back king with Not Like Us. And the song was so good. There are so many quotable instances, which is making a lot of old videos of Drake and his interaction with younger fans. She was 17, Drake. When you found out, you should have just said, nice to meet you. Bye-bye. Simple. You didn't have to touch. You didn't have to kiss. You didn't have to acknowledge. Just like, bye-bye. No jokes, no nothing. Just say, bye-bye. And because of that, it's probably the only thing out of all this beef that can be proven. Yes, Drake can say that Kendrick's kids ain't his. It's actually one of his man's. He could say that he hit his wife. He could say that this and he could say that. But there is no real proof. Most of these things that people are saying in the rap, there's no real proof. But there are instances of Drake's and his interaction with younger fans, from the Millie Bobby Brown thing to the girls on stage to the woman he allegedly had an affair with in England or London or whatever, with reports of all these girls talking about the NDAs that they had to sign, with talks about how Drake handles, meeting up and hooking up with girls whenever he's touring, how there's a guy who has a guy who scouts for them to bring them to the guy who reviews them and they can't use their phones and they have to sign NDAs. And it just sounds creepy, Drakey boy. Like, that's some Diddy Epstein level shit. And that's where Drake got crucified. Now, the Hot Pot 6 had the correct messages, but the poorest and laziest of deliveries. I even saw someone in the comment section say, you can tell that Drake wrote this. Like, you can tell that Drake wrote this. And unfortunate to Drake, that's what a lot of people are saying. We can tell you wrote this one, mate, because it's boring. This is not The Boy. And not to make it even worse, At the end of the song, Drake then decides, to start talking about being done with the beef, as if he's up one or he can't compete. If there's someone that says, this is a boxing match, right? And there's still like 4 or 5 more rounds. And then someone's like, yeah, I could have knocked you out, but I don't want to keep competing. The fans are going to be like, what? Even your own fans are going to be like, what? You should have said that from the very start, and people would have respected you like we do with J. Cole. Because, let's be honest, J. Cole made the best decision of his career, because he dropped the #1 single or song or whatever, hit the charts, went away, spending time with his family, on vacation, drinking green tea, with, iced tea, getting his foot massaged, getting his dreads relaxed, just chilling and relaxing on the beaches of Barbados. But unlike Drake, you can't cop out when it's almost the finale. You can't cop out in the championship rounds, because that's what makes you a quitter. Now, Kendrick can respond, and that can be a benefit or a curse for Kendrick. But right now, it's looking really, really good for Kendrick. Now, just to summarize this so the video doesn't go too long, who do I think won? And I hate when people always give the cop-out answer. Oh, the winner of this is the fans, it's the hip-hop fans, it's the cultures. Let's be honest, the real winner of this is the Gok 10,000, Drake Guzzler, King, Champion, Streamer, Dreamer, The Believer, academics. Now, I'm just kidding. That would have been a cop-out. Imagine if I did that and ended up the video saying that, like, oh, it's academics who actually won from this. That would be hilarious. That would be the most saddest and most pathetic way to end a video.